And now we continue with part two of IS 201 in the dark.
Dad, before I forget, Abdul called last night, and he wants you to give him a call. He asked me if I seen anything about IS 201 in the museum in D.C.
Okay, thanks.
The number you have dialed has been changed.
Unbelievable.
You going to the library today?
No.
All right, see you later.
See you.
Hey guys, so as you can see, this guy Instagram has been hacked. Now, I've been sick throughout the whole film night. So,
Hi, I'm Rhonda. I entered IS 201 in sixth grade in September of 1970. Miss Crump was my homeroom teacher. I have fond memories of my 3 years there, from playing clarinet, being provided a well rounded education that included academics, home economics, and most importantly, knowledge of black history. I had the privilege of being taught by men and women that looked like me and reinforced the fact that I could be anything that I wanted to be, and then education was the key.
Yo, D, you remember these here, man? This was my mom's. And I know every mother in the neighborhood had one of these little strong boxes where they kept their important papers.
Yes.
You know, so when you asked me and you connected with me and I watched a video about 201, I had to go back to the box to go through my mother's personal things that she had that I'm lucky to have, because it reflects a history about IS 201, and not just that, it's a little bit larger than that. The whole community, even before the school was built, and then history is of the grassroots movement and who was involved with it, the central figures, and they were our parents, and particularly our mothers that were not having it. As I remember growing up, I used to always wonder, me and my brothers and sisters, Mom's not here with us too much. She was always off on one meeting or another, you know, and each year after year, we was like, Mom, she's still going, and she'd come in late at night, she'd be tired. I used to have to rub her feet, but she used to say, we got what we needed done. We got what they needed done. Her and her two partners, they called them TIM, T-I-M, which stood for Testamark, Isaacs, and Maynard. Those were the mothers who really were the backbone of that grassroots movement in that area for 201, because they made it possible for others to get in positions, politicians and otherwise, to do the things they needed to do, and they held them accountable. It was about accountability with them, because everyone in the community, we were a family in that community. You know, it was made of blacks, Hispanics, and one or two old retired white couples that didn't have no kids, but they was a staple in the community too. And they were part of the community. The community wasn't rich, but it was rich in spirit and togetherness and connection that we had. That community had grocery stores, mom and pop grocery stores, butcher shops, banks, drugstores, pharmacies, thrift shops, hair salons. We had the bar, nightclub, everything in the community needed to sustain itself, it was there. And many of the families there were on public assistance. I remember the best cheese in the world was that government cheese, D. We all had, man, listen, that was it. You couldn't wait to get that cheese and make sandwiches. And again, nobody was better than the other because we was community. So when I had to dig back in this box, D, I looked and seen an article that my mother had, 1965, April, Percy Sutton, Charlie Rangel, talking about the issues that the parents demanded and held them accountable. I remember also, I said all these meetings, but I know my mom, she took me when I was a shorty to a meeting in Albany that they had. Testamark, Isaac, and Maynard. Tim. They wasn't having it. They went to Albany, but also find this box D. They went to Washington. Visitors Pass, U.S. House of Representatives. 1969, June 24th, where they argued and demanded the rights for their families and the people in the community, particularly the kids. I found another card before I even heard it recently, Poor People's Campaign, where she was a member of, with the other mothers. Harlem Hospital, Community Board, the Board of Elections, when she was a poll worker. These are the things that grassroots mothers in our community were involved in. They demanded. That was the history of the area of IS 201, Arthur A. Schomburg. So when the idea of putting a school there, they displaced a lot of families to put that school there. And when they did that, that was our family members because they were part of our community. But the people in the community wasn't a part of that decision. So when the decisions was made to build that school, the mother stood up. Again, as I said, they went to Albany, they went to Washington and said, we are going to have a say in this school, who is in charge of it. We want black leadership. We're going to be in charge of the curriculum. And they also had social dynamics a part of that curriculum. Because I remember on Fridays, once a month, they used to take us to the Guggenheim dentist. Put you on a school bus, you got to go to the dentist. You had to get a medical checkup. Another time they took us to the bathhouse on 135th Street where we learned how to swim, Mr. Smith. Or the bank track right upstairs where you ran track. Those were part of the demands they just say they wanted, since it was in our community and it had to impact the kids and the families in a positive direction. And you already had talked about when the Jazzmobile and all that used to come there. I remember we had music class, Miss Nettles, the lady with the glasses, Catwoman glasses, man. I used to play the clarinet. And she had that long ruler where she'd tap you in hands if you trying to not look at the keyboard and stuff like that. She taught us all that. Miss McCrae, mother, home economics. Mr. Evans, Ronald Evans, the principal, black. Mr. Bertrand Brown, assistant principal, black. He taught karate after school. Miss Taylor, math teacher. She taught karate after school. Miss Crump, she was a science teacher. You know, all of those came as a result of the women, the mothers, making demands. Certain members that are on the that was on the governing board, Miss Alice Connolly, Mr. David Spencer, and all of them, was as a result of those mothers demanding, going to Albany, going to Washington, saying we gonna be the decision makers of this school in our community. And that fight first began when they started talking about the design of the school. A school with no windows. I mean, what do you mean with no windows? And not only that, the design of the school came more clear when they wanted to deciding which students would be participating in the school. Their design for this participation had nothing to do with the kids in the community. It was white kids from outside, from Queens and all other areas, that they was going to bus into our neighborhood to attend our schools. So the design made a little bit more sense because they didn't want those students to be impacted by the black community that the school was in. And our parents wasn't having it. They wasn't going for that. So their arguments, their meetings, year after year after year, took hold. So you got to realize the location, 128th Street, 127th Street between Madison and Park, is a prime area. Why? Because Madison Avenue goes all the way from downtown to all the way uptown through Harlem to 135th Street, where you have to get the bridge to connect to the other expressways. I remember them white folks when they used to come there at the stoplight. They had the windows roll up tight, the doors locked, their eyes straight ahead, and they had their hands gripping the steering wheel because they wanted to get out of there as quick as possible. And I also remember, and I didn't realize then, none of us really did, with them tour buses with them Whites was on there taking pictures and everything. You called me and we spoke, and I told you what I had. I mean, it just. I said, this is perfect. I got the documentation. Indeed, this morning when I came, I don't know, and I opened up the box and I started going through the papers. And it was early, it's quiet, but for some reason, it shook, the lid. It kept shaking.
Wow.
And certain documents I would open, it would shake. Then I would look and I was like, wow, but ain't no breeze in here and the window ain't open. And then it would stop and then I'd get to another document and it would shake. So that gave me, I was like, wow, okay, Ma, I know this is what you wanted me to pull out.
You know what I'm really happy and just like really overwhelmed about is that you presenting information here that, you know, I read a few books, you know, during the research, and, you know, some of it is very close, but the historical information, like when you talk about the parents, they don't have that information in the books.
No, they're not going to have it, because the authors, they never talk to those parents. They never ask them about the struggle. How was it to being away from your kids? And so I'm like, I mean, winter time when it's cold and everything else and the snow, they still had meetings. And again, when they had them open meetings for people to come and it should be packed, there might have been 10, 15 people there, but all the regular faces. Oh, we're not going to cancel this.
That's right.
Well, since nobody, no, that's how it was going. Oh, we're not canceling this. We here. Oh, yeah, Tim is in the house. We here. The other parents in the house. We here. So we want to know what you're going to do about A, B, and C. And they didn't let them give them a broad outlook on things. They wanted specifics in detail. And they, I guess they was like, they had lawyer training because they would go through the paperwork. I don't care how many pages it was. And they'll circle and mark off, well, this don't make sense, this got to go. They read it. And I know they didn't anticipate them being that detailed.
And prepared.
And prepared and particular. And it's like, oh no, this don't make sense. And if it don't make sense for us, we ain't going to need that.
Right.
So a lot of the books are not going to have that. But that was real. They talk to the people who are in position that the parents made. It was an opportunity for those people.
Absolutely.
And they're not going to ask them the question of, well, who made it an opportunity for you to get to where you get to? Because a lot of them then, they was pushing for certain things on the agenda, but they was also had personal interests involved. They were salaried and everything else.
Absolutely.
And Tim and the parents, they was opposed to all that. We don't want no salaries. You ain't got to pay this. This for our kids. We don't want nothing from you. We want these demands for our communities and our families. That's what we want. So you couldn't hold them or attack them in any way or discredit them for being biased.
Right. Because they never fed into the...
They never fed into the politics, none of that. They didn't want no news media, none of that. No. But if you wanted to have a conversation about what they thought was beneficial to their community, oh, bring a couple of tapes, a couple of hours, because they're going to give it to you. And they're going to give it to you raw. That's one thing I loved about them parents, too. They ain't thinking nothing about no politically correct stuff. Politically correct?
Right.
Nah, they're going to let you know what's on their mind and how they feeling about it. And they didn't give a damn if your feelings was hurt.
Because it was about the kids.
It's about our kids and our families. You can be hurt all you want to.
You know something that I also, you know, have been reading, and, you know, a lot of the material, you know, I think may imply that Mayor Lindsay was responsible for the construction and the design of IS-201. He was not. It was Wagner. It was actually Robert Wagner. And Mayor Lindsay, he inherited that design. The school construction began in 1964.
Many people think in
Curtis and Davis.
68.
Right. Curtis
Many
and
people think that.
Yeah, a lot of people think 68 because of all that was going on.
Right.
You know, but in 64 it was signed, and the construction started with the two architects, Curtis and Davis, who were actually imported from New Orleans.
So you did the research on that, and that's
Yeah.
and that's information that a lot of people, even I, didn't know the particulars of that. You know, design. I know they had a problem with the design, but who actually where it come. So it's good that you did that research and where they incorporating people from importing this idea and that idea. But again, after that, I guess that decision for them to do that, which gave rise to our parents taking the steps that they did.
Absolutely.
Because they was offended.
With the bars and
They
oh
was
my God,
offended
those
by
bars made them feel like the school was a prison.
They was offended and they wasn't having it. So there was some change in the design because if you remember underneath the school it had them bronze African statues and everything there. They had to put that in there. That came from the parents. This is going to represent who Arthur A. Schomburg was and who the people that live in this community, the historical foundation they need to know about. So that was inputted from the parents too, you know. And again, those were our neighborhoods, buildings and people come out with playing and everything. I know they had a lot of, like I said, Harry Belafonte and a lot of other famous
Ruby G.
scholars, and Ozzie Davis and all
Ossie
them.
Davis.
They came through IS 201, but again, because the leadership and the curriculum and everything that them parents demanded, they opened up the doors for people to start. And when you mentioned the jazz movie, I was like, oh man, I remember. Professionals coming in to share and to teach. Even the ballet.
I remember.
Yeah, Alvin, Ellie, dance, theater before that, yeah. They used to come in there and teach us and instruct and put on shows in that auditorium.
That's right.
We had a lot of different plays and stuff that went on in there that gave us a rich cultural, historical context of what it's about to move forward. Because it wasn't just the historical nature, stay in that period. They gave you a lesson in the transformation from year after year, decade after decade, the struggles and everything else, including the athletes who all had businesses and stores in the community as a part of empowerment and giving the people jobs and making things available. All of that was a part of that Poor People's Campaign, man. I was blown away, man.
You know, my mom had one of these boxes as well.
They all did.
Yeah, she had one of these. I remember. And she used to keep a little money in there, like hide the money up in there as well. I remember.
For real. Yeah, right.
But,
oh, look at this.
All the important papers, insurance policies.
All of that's still in here,
the bank books. You know, even the bank books that were for us, the children. Do you
Yeah.
remember when they took us to Harlem Savings Bank?
Heck yeah,
And,
man.
Hey, what's good, though? You gotta do the jab thing now, man. You know, being that, all of this stuff going on. Everybody, yeah. What's going on, man? What's going on? It's crazy, man. Whole lot, man. Whole lot. Yo, let me ask you something. Remember that film I sent you, right? That video I sent you, right?
Yeah.
You didn't see IS 201 nowhere in there, did you?
Nah.
In the museum thing I said.
Nah, I never saw. Exactly.
Fluffy and Renee, we was together since PS 24 till IS 201.
Yo, what do you think? He got stuff he doing, man, at home, man. You know, his mom kept him in. So he got to clean his room, he got to help him clean the bathroom and all that. So he good. What's up? You ready to go or what? You ready to go?
I wish I would.
I wish I would. You know I'm ready to do my thing on you, right? No, that was left hand. Come on, man. Come on over here, man. Come on, get some wreck, man. Oh, there's nothing about the school in the library. What you don't understand about that? What I'm supposed to tell you?
We went through too much shit. That's what I'm talking about, man. We went through too much shit about this. Your mom, my mom. Come on, man. Nah, man. We gotta talk. Let's talk.
What's up?
Hold up, Pete. Check this out. Listen, man. We still got people here, man, that can help us, man. What you talking about, man? We still got the bishop. We still got Miss Campbell. We got Burt Brown. We got me. We got you. Come on, man. Come on, G. For real, man. All this we done went through, man. Nah, man. I don't believe you just giving up like this.
You trying to put all that on me, though, right?
Nah, man. I'm gonna help you. No, I'm not gonna help you.
Oh, what you gonna do, oh? What you gonna do?
I'll do the interviews. How about that? Can I do the interviews? I'll do the interviews.
Oh, if you do the interviews, you gotta show me some interviews first, though. I'm not gonna just jump into this, man. Because you know how many people have already talked about what they're gonna do and all this? Come on, oh. I'm telling you, if you show me 3 interviews, show me 3 interviews.
No problem, man.
And I'll go do the research. I'll dig up the research from the beginning of this.
No problem, D. That's my word. No problem. I do them. I got some interviews for you. I promise.
I remember when I attended the school, the first year they opened was 1966. The school back then was empowered under the Black Panther status. All the stuff was going on, you know, trying to help black communities come up a little bit. And I remember I had a teacher in here the first year. I played hooky one day. Me and a friend of mine named is Googie, last name Andrews. My name is Arthur Collins. Back then it was Denny. And I remember I had played hooky like sometime in the afternoon. We was over here, right in the little circle here, smoking a joint of marijuana, which was kind of popular back then under the hippie status. And Mr. Bell came out looking for us. And we began to run. And I had just had on a pair of brand new $25 tailor-made mohair pants from Ori's on 25th Street. And I had on my Pro Kids, brand new Pro Kids. So Mr. Evans called us instead of us coming to him. We put the joints out and we attempted to run over this big fence, climbed over the fence, and he just took one leg and hopped over the fence and grabbed me and then grabbed my friend Googie, man, and just dragged us right by the collar back to the school. Put a hole in my pants. I was real angry, man, with this guy, man, for years, all the way up from 1968 all the way up until 2003 when I finally came up with a 25-year bid. You know, and I saw him and I explained to him that I was real angry with him. But I kind of like changed my life, you know, since then. So, you know, I forgave him, but I'm glad to see that something's being done, being told about the history of the school. I think the school is quite memorial and it should be remembered. And it should be put in the museum in Washington, D.C. But this was the first all-black empowered school, the first black principal. You know, it was the first school that actually had a big, fully equipped gymnasium, cooking classes and everything. You know, the only thing bad about the school, it was the first school that was built in America with no windows. Yeah, you know who Joanne Cheshire is, right? Also known as Asada Shakur. She come off right there. I think it's 1774 Fifth Avenue, 127th and 128th and Fifth Avenue, in the basement. And I remember that. I think she was. I'm not sure if she was adopted or whatever. But I know she was being raised by Queen Mother Moore and her sister Mother Langley. That's when they was a part of that UBA and all that. They started the Block Association and all that. Gave us our first jobs because we was bad children and all that stuff. You know, making $40 an hour. I don't know if you remember that, Odell.
40 an hour.
No, not 40. Not $40 a week.
Yeah.
$40.95. You're making $40.95 a week. That's part of that UBA, the United Block Association, parallel to the PAL, the police department. We was competing against them, you know, with boxing, basketball, baseball. But I know that somehow or another, this school here, PS 68, which has a lot of the real bad children, and it was also being catered to by the Black Panthers. They had a copies, what do you call it, like a copying store, right here on 127th and Lenox, where I used to work for Joanne Chesimard, you know what I'm saying, carrying the bundles of the Black Panther paper, stuff like that. But for some reason, nobody is remembering IS 201. I think that's very important that, you know, there should be some kind of memorial concerning that.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How old was you that time when you said Mr. Brown came and got you and dragged you back to this?
I think I was about 13, somewhere in that, just becoming a teenager. I was pretty young, 12 or 13 years old. You know, around the early part of beginning to smoke marijuana under the hippie status back then. I was the hippie swagger, you know, between 11 and 13, somewhere around there.
That's how we get up there. We go all the way up to the top of the auditorium. The last row. Yeah. So the ceiling ain't that far.
What are you talking about, in the back?
Yeah, all the way to the back of the projector.
In the front.
No, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, but we'll walk, right there. We'll walk from all the way to the front. We right there on the stage.
But you do know that it was a ladder behind the boat. I just let you know. Okay.
We used to use the bricks, right? The last row in the auditorium. Right, you could scale to the ceiling. We go to the ceiling to drop ceiling. So 2 days later, I'm in karate class. Right?
You were Brown?
I had to spar with Brown and Batunga, man. They fucked me up, man. They fucked me up. Brown, Batunga was the sensei. Brown came in there with the big black belt and shit like that. God damn it. Sparring time and shit, right? So,
where was Mr. Bell?
Huh? Bell was my man. Bell took me to Pittsburgh.
So, was Miss Campbell one of the founders or something of it, or was she a part of it?
No, well, you know, she wasn't one of the people that was way out in front.
Because that's before my time.
Yeah. You was real little at the time. You was very little at the time. But Miss Campbell wasn't one of the people that was out in front. But she was definitely there because, you know, her kids went to the same school.
So I wonder if Nana was involved in that. And, you know, Dalu was raised up in that era too.
Trust me, Nana had a lot to say, you know, too. You know, she definitely did, believe me. You know, again, you know, they didn't want us to go to the school, man, you know? So, you best believe Nana had something to say about that.
So y'all want the school to get back to where it was, or y'all want some changes to be done?
Nah, actually, we just want the school to be mentioned in our history, you know, like it should be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
More people should know about it. That's right.
Yeah, man, because nobody knows nothing about that school. You know, just walk by, a lot of people, you know, they used to think it was a penitentiary center.
Mm-hmm. School with no windows.
Yeah. IS 201.
A lot of memories for y'all, huh? I wasn't around when that was built, though. I was there for the
best believe
for my generation.
Yeah.
I was there for that.
We was there, you know, again before the school was built. You know, mm-hmm. We lost a lot of friends when they put the school up too, man. You know, a lot of people who had to be displaced, moved around. You know. Shit, it was a good and a bad thing, you know?
It's like, wow, that spiritual force is real, it's powerful. God is amazing, God is good all the time,
all
man.
the time.
You know, and that's something that you just being touched by what you do, because you were always giving back, too, man. You know, we've always given back. And as I said, we had our young days, wild days, and coming up and doing things, but we went back to the true source of our roots, our upbringing.
Absolutely.
And that's what the parents instilled in us. It was about nurturing, uplifting, and assisting. And who would think in our older years now, those same elements is what guides us. We were spiritually rich in our community.
Absolutely.
Too. You know, All Saints Church in 29th.
Oh.
My brother is named after one of the fathers that was there.
Wow.
Father Curry. His middle name is Colonel Curry.
Wow.
My mother spent her life in that church. That's where her service was and everything else. And she was buried in her usher uniform.
Wow.
Of that church. I mean, and not for nothing, that's where the summer jobs, the office down in the rectory,
yeah.
they had, that's where we used to meet to
Sign
sign
up.
up and everything
Mm-hmm.
else. So, yeah, it's important that you mention about the churches in our community, because we had them, and they were real.
Yeah, those churches. Chambers
real
Memorial
churches.
Church, where
Yeah.
the Bishop Lawrence Edgerton is
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
That church was directly connected to the parents
Mm-hmm.
because that was a safe place for them to come, not only to worship, but also to hold meetings, as
No
you were
question.
saying. They went in the
Yeah.
That's not there no more.